So just remember that the results sometimes come even a year later, and sometimes in ways that you don't even see. Like when we were talking about stage materials, I was not thinking renters, or people. I wasn't thinking commercially. I was just thinking about worship. But then things have this way of having a byproduct of goodness. It multiplies, does it not? Things multiply and increase in their momentum. And this principle, actually, I forgot. I put some slides just so you can show, because sometimes it's easy to forget. The sermon today is called Broken Windows, but we haven't even started that yet. I put some before and after pictures upon recommendation from Keishu. She said this will help jog memory. So there's the before and the after. There's the before. Remember that? The white paint. I remember Tomio's face when I said, Tomio, we're going to paint the building. He's like, really? I said, yeah, we're going to paint it black. He was like, no, you're joking. I said, no, I'm not. Oh. So before, after. Yeah, it's awesome, right? And those photos are not my photography work. That's Daniel, I'm pretty sure. So this thing is kind of buggy, but it's okay. So yeah, we have Broken Windows is the sermon title. I just want to say that there's a principle at work here. There's a principle at work, and it's known as the broken window syndrome. Has anybody heard of this, or a broken window principle? Maybe somebody's heard of this, I don't know. But they say that when a building is sitting on the side of a street, and all the windows are fine, usually they'll remain fine, more often than not. It'll take a long time for a problem to happen, even if the building is not being occupied. It's just sitting there. And then one day, something happens, and a window gets broken. A little window, right? You've seen those industrial where they have the little panes? As soon as that first window breaks, very quickly, very soon after, all the other windows start breaking. They know this as a phenomenon. You've seen these buildings, these type of buildings probably. They're fine, and then when one window breaks, the next breaks, and the next breaks, and the next breaks, and the next breaks, and the next breaks. And it's not a magic trick. It's because it signals a certain energy and it has a certain momentum, right? When people walking, or let's say kids, see a building every day and they see, oh wow, that window's been broken for 2 weeks. Let's throw rocks at the other windows, right? It's like, yeah, okay, no one cares. We're just gonna throw rocks, break the other windows. And that's why these buildings look like that. That's why they look like that. And so as soon as the first one breaks and goes unattended, if it's not repaired right away, people get the idea, oh, no one cares about this building, and we're going to just throw rocks at the rest of it, right? And so this is something that a lot of people in city management, a lot of people in government, a lot of people have studied. There's a certain phenomenon at work here. It's almost like attracts like, but it's not really. It's not really that. It's deeper than that. So, actually, one story about this is when Mayor Giuliani took over New York City. And I heard about this story a lot because I lived there and I heard, oh, wow, you live on that street? You used to not be able to walk on that street. You'd have to walk in the middle of the road on the yellow line just not to get mugged, you know? And I'm like, really? It doesn't feel like that now. So Giuliani cleaned up New York City. And you know how he did it? And actually, he fixed the crime rates dramatically. It seemed like a hopeless city. It seemed like a city like, you know, what Detroit or Chicago is now. Like, it just seems like an impossible problem to fix. That was New York back in the 80s and 90s. When he came around, he fixed the problem. And the first thing he did was he tightened up the littering laws. The littering and the way you recycle and put garbage. And you would get a heavy fee if you didn't recycle properly. And you'd get a heavy fee if you did any litter. And that had a broken window effect sort of in reverse. When you start cleaning up little things, it starts to fix all the other windows. So it goes both ways. And Jesus talks about this principle, actually. I found this principle to be kind of closely related to, let's see if I have it. So we have this story. I don't think you've heard, I think I've told it yet. You probably have heard it, but I don't think I've told it. It's the story where the master gives money and entrusts his gold to 3 servants. This is known as one of the harshest quotes that Jesus has. This is known as, why is he so cruel? Why doesn't he care? So hear me out. Let's listen to this story. I'll try to tell it, do it some justice. Put it in modern terms here. So a man is going on a journey, and he's going on a long journey, and he's leaving his gold and his riches with his 3 servants, which is unheard of. That you don't really entrust your servants with tons of pots of gold. You don't really do that. And in the Bible, it says he gave one servant 5 talents, and the second servant 2 talents, and the third servant 1 talent. Now, how much do you think a talent is worth? Does anybody know? I had to look it up. I had to dig for a while. Actually, they say that it was worth 20 years. 1 talent is worth 20 years of labor. So let's say you make 50 grand and you work for 20 years. How much is that? Mathematicians. $1 million. 1 talent is $1 million. So the master gives $5 million to servant number 1, $2 million to servant number 2, and $1 million to servant number 3. And he says, I'm going to be on a long journey. I'm trusting you with this money. Do right by it. Do your best. He returns after a long time, and he says, what'd you do with the money? Servant number 1 says, Master, I took the 5 million and I wheeled it and I dealed it and I invested it and I made $10 million total. So I doubled it. I made $5 more million out of your $5 million. I made 10 million. And the master said, that is amazing. I am going to put you in charge of so many other things now. You are my guy. You're my right-hand man now. Servant number 2 comes to the master and says, Master, I took the $2 million and I made it into $4 million. And he says the same thing. You're going to be in charge of so many great things. I'm proud of you. The third servant says, Master, I took such good care of the $1 million. I knew it was precious, so I buried it in the ground. I found a secret spot. I buried it under a bunch of dirt. And then when I heard you were returning, I took it back out. And here it is, just as you left it. He says, you lazy, slothful fool. He said, you could have been going to the bankers. It literally says that in the Bible text. You should have been going to the bankers. You should have been wheeling and dealing. You should have been doing something with this money. Not just stick it in the ground. Do something with it. You know what? Forget it. Give me your $1 million. Don't give me your $1 million. Give it to the guy who made $10 million. So servant number 3 had to hand over his $1 million over to servant number 1. And now servant number 1 has $11 million, right? He has the 10 plus the 1. He kept all 10. Now he has the 1 from servant number 3. And then Jesus says, and by the way, he's saying that this parable reflects the kingdom of heaven. This is how the kingdom of heaven works. That's how he starts this parable. And then at the end, he caps it with this. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken away from them. That's ruthless, actually. People have stewed over this, saying, well, doesn't he care about poor people? There's a certain principle at work. Every one of us has been given a lot by God. Even if it's not material things or financial things, it's something. It's family. It's an able body. It's life. It's the opportunity to find spiritual truth. to find a community. God has given us all lots and lots of gifts, has he not? It's true, right? Every one of us has gotten something from God. And so under that perspective, if we take care of and increase what we do have, that's the way to trigger and kick in God's blessings. He says, okay, you increased it. Good, you can keep it. And now I'm giving you a little extra, baker's dozen on the top. And things work like this. Actually, it's not illogical. It's quite logical. To gain energy, you exercise. That's weird, right? Exercising should drain energy. Exercising gains energy when you do it regularly. Studies show that when you smile, even if you're not happy, when you smile for a couple seconds, you trigger an emotion in your brain or in your body that actually is happiness. Literal, real chemicals of happiness go into your body when you smile. Endorphins. So this principle works. If you increase what you do have, well, I have a face, maybe I should increase it into a smile. Rush of endorphins come later. It's interesting, right? This works for many, many different things. So when you're going through, how do I get to the next level, or what's the next phase for me, or how do I increase what I have, or how come I don't have what I want? It shouldn't so much be the focus of, well, if I only had this thing or this person, if I could only get that, then I would be able to move and act. That's not true. The real question is, what has God given you? What do you have that God has given you right now, and how do you increase and take care of that and nurture that? That is the question, and that will trigger the momentum of increase. It's all the broken window principle at play. And this actually works for spirituality too. When you love, you increase love. It comes back to you, it fills you up. Right? When you serve, people want to serve you. When you take care of, that's the question. What do you have right now? Physical, emotional, spiritual, that you can work on and increase and nurture better. Like a church building. Like your connections, your people, your family. What can we nurture? When you nurture people, when you take care of people, you're going to get more people in your life. Isn't that right? I mean, Jesus definitely had that going on. There was a multitude that followed him around for one reason or another. So when you take care of people, you're going to get more people. When you take care of your time, that's a gift too. When you take care of your time, you get more time. That's just, in layman's terms, that's called time management. When you manage and take care of the time you do have, all of a sudden I have all this free time. I got more time. So when you act a certain way, you get more of it. And that's, I think, a close relationship to the sort of faith versus works argument, right? If we act godly, we're going to get more God. We're going to feel it more. So it's not that he's not there, it's that we have to trigger it, activate it, and fill us with Spirit. Fill us with Spirit. You know, people think that God sits with a little hammer and a little judge wig, you know, the little wig. He hits the little hammer and says, "You're not holy enough." You know, I don't think so. I think this principle is at play. If you let one window break and you let them all break and you let them go and you let them go and you fall further and further away from that state of peace, it's like you throw yourself into a spiritual ghetto. You throw yourself into a spiritual garden of peace. God's there helping, of course, but we have a big part to play. We have our portion of responsibility. Isn't that right? So I don't think God is just sitting like a cold judge. God is our parent. A parent wants the child to succeed no matter what, always rooting for you. So I think this helps me understand why I try to be good, but why God, it's that balance of being good, but God forgives you anyway, kind of thing. That's always a tough one to explain. So when you add love to your life, you're going to get more love. And there's clear examples of that even in your family. Imagine a single person all by yourself. When you get married, you're adding a person to your life. You're adding, right? And then what happens? Babies happen. Traditionally. So we're talking about the traditional sense of things, okay? Modern era might be a little skewed. In the traditional sense of things, according to God's design, if you add one person to your life, if you add a spouse into your family, it produces more people. When you add love, so this also happens on an emotional level. If I'm a single person, I'm not married yet, then I don't know what marital love is. But when you add a marriage, you're adding marital love. You open that third realm of the heart, right? The third chamber. You unlocked it. Now you are experiencing marital love. What happens? God rushes down, increases it to parental love. So love leads to more love that you didn't have before. And people add to people. Love is love, people add to people. Acting godly and going by God's design adds God. And this is the formula, it always works. And so now is a good time to take any broken window in your life, any little thing, could be small or big, and start thinking about, what can I do to fix this little window? For me, it might be that men's bathroom back there. Or it could be my car. My car is not vacuumed. Right, Casey? She's like, you gotta vacuum your car. Take a little window, maybe reflect on it. Take a little window in your life that could use some fixing. And we don't want to belittle it like it's nothing. It's actually a big deal. It could contribute to a momentum, and the benefits could go far beyond what you might think. Just like the Mayor Giuliani effect. I experienced this firsthand when I started, when last year I did the Whole30 for 2 months. And people noticed, especially Keishu noticed, you know what? The house is so clean. I'm like, that's weird. She's like, the house is just so clean these days. And it's because I was just watching my diet better. So things have this weird, when you fix one area, it fixes other areas. So it's good to think about, what area can I work on now that might be small. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be small. And the other thing is, it doesn't just fix other areas in the here and the now, it fixes other areas down the road. So you have to have that patience to see it out. And, the main thing that stops us from fixing little things is the procrastination bug, is it not? I know I have stuff in my garage I need to clean, and my car is not vacuumed. And there's just this overwhelming sense of procrastination. I was kind of looking into procrastination, hearing people talk about that, and how it's just the most convenient, it is the most convenient little pesky thing ever, because it's instant gratification. When you procrastinate on something, it's like your brain, I was imagining my, two halves of my brain talking to each other, saying, Joe, we should really clean the dishes. Well, why should we clean the dishes when we could just skip it? You're right. Good idea. Oh, I feel better already. It's like instantly gratifying. And I heard on the radio recently that all procrastination of any kind comes down to one simple thing. It's the avoidance of pain. The avoidance of pain that you're going to go through if you were to tackle the task. And I realized that hits true for me. I think that helped me click something in. And, we teach, especially from a biblical point of view and even divine principle point of view, that you have to go through some kind of indemnity. You have to go through some kind of pain barrier to get closer to the ideal kingdom of heaven. You have to get closer to God, oftentimes through pain. So this is a very mundane and almost small example of that. Through the pain of having to do these dishes or clean my bookshelf, through the little pain, can we get closer to godliness? They say cleanliness is godliness, right? That's a saying that I think kind of embodies, when I do the work and the sweat of taking care of this, we get closer. So I want to call all of you to a couple of actions this week. We can definitely take a moment to appreciate what we have. I think that's my number one today. Appreciate the beautiful building that we have and join us all together to work towards building this place into even more beautiful. Excellence. We're going to be doing that. It's going to be awesome. And don't just avoid the little things and the pain. Try taking just one and going through it. Going through it. Just like Father would have us or Jesus would have us. Go through it. And see what you have and count what you have as a gift. And you know that saying, count your blessings. But I feel like that saying is a little flat. Just count your blessings, okay. Got it. But if we see our blessings and we see what we have as a gift, then we know what we can start increasing. Then we know what we can start taking care of and nurturing. So that we can go back to God and say, wow, I took that 5 and turned it into 10. So that's the heart that we want to have for God. Everything that he's given us, we're thankful and we're going to increase it and make it better and better. And don't just think about things. Think about people in your life, your family, your siblings, our brothers and sisters here and in the wider state of Florida. Let's take care of people. If we take care of people that are in our lives right now, then we're going to see a lot more people. Just like the CV2 church that just walked in here randomly. Or that one day that the bird flew in, or the one day that the dog came in. Things are just going to come in. People are going to come. The right people are going to come into your life. The right relationships are going to come into your life more and more if we take care of the people that we have right now. So thank you very much.